Hello there. This is Grant Lankert again with Drawing from Grant. Uh, I do want to make a note that this is a pre recorded episode, so you are more than welcome to comment, but neither me nor Mike, Jimmy will be able to reply to it, obviously, because this is all happening in the past. So I'm gonna go a little bit into what's coming up for me and what just happened, but uh, this will all probably be out of date by the time this actually airs. Now, for the record, we're airing this Saturday, May 20th. Um, so what's coming up for me is tomorrow I'm doing the Pittsburgh Comics Show. It's a Sunday show, but it seems to cater specifically to comic book audiences. So we'll see how that goes. Now, by the time this comes out, I'll actually probably be getting ready for Three Rivers Comic Con, which is my all-time favorite comic book convention. I am very excited. Obviously, it's put on right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's put on by my friend John Engel, who is also the manager of New Dimension Comics. And it's just a really great show. They specifically cater to comic book fans as opposed to being more of a pop culture convention. So I'm sure next week I will have some details about how that went. So let's get on to the artwork from my upcoming projects. Now, as you guys know, or should I introduce Mike Jimmy first? What do you think, Mike?
Completely up to you, but I can go introduce myself as well if you want.
Well, okay. I mean, I think most people know you from Life on Korra, and you also do Sea of Fairies and Ents. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, Fairies and Ants is my publishing company, so we
Oh, Fairies and
publish
okay.
six. Yeah, I said CEO earlier, but no worries. Um, no, I've published 17 books so far, coming up to 18, and even more coming in the future, obviously. And yeah, we're just chugging along. Currently, we're publishing 6 different series, and we've been doing this for 5 years, just about.
Wow, yeah, you're very busy. And in case I didn't make it clear earlier, the reason why we're recording this instead of doing this live is that Mike Jimmy is lives in Australia,
No, in the Netherlands. Australia is even further to the east.
the Netherlands. Why did I think you
Yeah.
were from Australia?
I have no clue. You tell me.
Yeah, you don't have an Australian accent. No. You're from the Netherlands. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, so anyways, we have to do this show in the afternoon because otherwise Mike Jimmy would have to wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning
Mm-hmm.
to do this show,
Not fun.
which my show isn't important enough to do that, right?
No show is. I value my sleep. And there's a cat vegan, but shall we be nice?
Yeah, I hear you. So we'll discuss some of the art from my upcoming projects. Uh, this first piece of art, this is going to be one of 5 covers. This cover was written, or I'm sorry, penciled, inked, and colored by a young woman by the name of Gray Muir Lewis. Um, so this is for the story Come and See, which is about a serial killer. And I think it turned out really nice. It's an almost monochrome kind of cover, but I'm really looking forward to memoirs of the next more memoirs of the Morbid comic book coming out, so you guys can see all the great art that's in it. So this is a page from the same story, Come and See. And as you can kind of see, it's also kind of a police procedural because there's a police officer who is trying to capture this serial killer. Now, this is the narrator of Memoirs of the Morbid. He is called the Ghoulmaster, and as you can kind of tell, he's kind of a tribute to old horror narrators, like, for instance, the Crypt Keeper. The Crypt Keeper is probably the most famous. I don't know. Do you have any knowledge, or have you ever read any of the old, like, Tales from the Crypt or anything like that, Mike?
Not really. I really grew up on Franco-Belgian comics, so
Okay.
like and all that kind of pulp. So yeah, like that's pretty much where I came in. But I remember seeing your trailer and having the awesome voiceover from the Crypt Keeper. That was great.
Yeah, I should have an updated version of that out shortly as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it'll probably be pretty similar, but just like with updated artwork for volume 2, you know?
I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's kind of an homage, but he's also more of a he's more of a parody than an homage, because one of his things is he has a lot of trouble coming up with puns,
Mhm.
which if you remember the original Crypt Keeper, he was a very punny narrator. So I'll show you this art first. Obviously, I did not draw this because I would have to be negative 60 years old to have drawn this. But the reason I'm showing you this is because this is going to be the inspiration for my first homage work.
Oh, sweet.
Uh, yeah, this is going to be my tribute art. And this is obviously not going to be in Memoirs of the Morbid. This is going to be in Beowulf. So this is the original art, and this is kind of what I have so far. And obviously, this is far from being finished, but I'm still working on it. So, what about you, Mike? Have you ever done like an homage cover?
I haven't done homage covers myself, but I have had a couple of creators do homage covers for me, um, especially for Lava Coil 3. And I can pull it up actually.
Let me.
Since I actually have it right over here. Oh. And biggin myself a bit as well. So we have the Silver Server.
Oh wow, cool.
Homage cover by Daniel Horta de Rosa, who is a pretty big friend of mine, and he has been doing Marvel and DC work for the last 25 or so years.
Oh
And
wow,
he made me this amazing cover, and yeah, it's a beauty.
that's awesome. So I don't know. One of my favorite parts of the job is whenever, um, I commission an artist to do a cover or a pinup, and seeing what they come up with.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, I would imagine that's most comic book creators' favorite part of the job, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in Laughing Cora 5, where I did 8 variants. Just having six different people make completely different ideas come just blew me away. And they're each and every one of them is absolutely gorgeous. You really see their style coming out in them. And yeah, like it's mm, absolutely humbling to be able to work with amazing talents like that, um, and to see them support you just as much as you support them.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm scared to ask this question, but do you want to mention maybe like a favorite or maybe one that stood out to you?
Well, obviously the Stone Server variant, but since I have them all right behind me on this rack over
Oh
there,
yeah, we get a photo of a kitty.
and yes, there is the kitty. Here's the real star of the show. This is my little squeaky. This is Shelby. But
Yoshi was in here earlier, but he has left.
so a couple of outliers that I just absolutely adore. And all of them are amazing. Like no one is being left out by me. But this is the variant by Nina Daisy Eberline for Love and Korra issue 4, Inner
Oh
Talents.
wow, some nice colors on that one.
Oh yeah. And then we have Daphne Leitch's variant for Love and Korra 5.
Yay, Daphne.
As well as Kiwi Comics, her variant, who is currently drawing the Radiant Sight, which we publish as well.
Cool.
And then we have Area Black, who he went ham on the details. Like this page is filled with little details. He is absolutely an amazing inker, and he's still honing his craft. It's incredible. But yeah, those are just some outliers, honestly. Like all of them, I absolutely adore. And yeah, all these creators um, that I hire, I always try and push forward as much as I can because it's their work. Like they're the ones who made it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my favorite part of the job is seeing what people come up with. I mean, I don't know if you do this or not. I mean, I usually give them like a basic idea for the cover, or do you do that, or do you just kind of give them a copy of the comic book and let them come up with their own idea?
I leave it completely to them because all of them have their own style and way of doing things, and I never want to infringe in someone's creative endeavor.
Right.
So, and Love and Korra as a project as a whole, like, is very open and very easygoing. So, I pretty much tell the writers for this series, think of what kind of creatures would live on this world. These are the rules, and have fun in my sandbox.
Right.
And because of that, I get very open and unique scripts from the writers, but it also allows me to have a lot of my own artistic freedom in there. And then when I send the pages to my colorist, she too pretty much has complete control over the coloring, as long as she keeps within the strict restrictions of the world.
Right.
And I try and keep that for the variant covers as well. Like, keep to the rules of the world, and otherwise, it's completely whatever you decide to do.
Wow. Okay. So you have kind of an interesting method. So you're the artist of the comic book, and you hire writers to come up with scripts
That's right.
for you, and then I'm assuming you take you take the scripts and draw them, I'm assuming.
Yep. So I get the scripts and I print them out because I like to have my say in editing. And we go back and forth for a couple of times, usually like 3 or 4, sometimes less, sometimes more. It depends on how much we get along. And then when we're both agreeing on what we have put down on paper, I start storyboarding, and I will, get a storyboard very quickly, very roughly. Then I will make all pages just like this, where I have just a rough lettering and the panels in place. And then I start penciling. And I'm a very easy penciler. I'm not very detailed. I'm very rough. And I can show you a comparison of what it looks like when I'm done inking compared to when I'm here, for example. So,
Oh wow, yeah. There's a lot of detail in that.
but comparatively, like, this is what I start with, right? And then I print these pencils, so they are traditionally inked. And I scan them back in and format them so they're up to size, and then I send them off to the colorist. And once I'm satisfied, and the pencils are looking nice, I print them out. And I used to do everything in A3, so about 16.5 by 12, a bit of a European size. But now I do them in A2, which is essentially 16.5 by 24 inches. So big pages.
Right.
But yeah, like it's a lot of fun. It's a very easygoing process. I'll still back and forth with my writers usually. I'm like, hey, how did you imagine this scene to work out, right? And sometimes they're like, yeah, no, whatever you think, or they'll be like, no, very specific, like, and usually I go to them because I don't know what to do with that scene. And yeah, like it's a very nice collaboration.
So how detailed are these scripts that you're?
It depends. I can actually just read you, since I got to lay it around anyway. It really depends on the writer, and for example, when she's this is by Kimberly Kovac, who got into comic scripts with Love and Cora essentially, and has been working on a web novel for a very long time. And yeah, she's doing a great job, and I absolutely love what she does. The story is by her. So page 30, panel 1. And we can actually watch along because that is right here. Sever and Aval stand on the cliffside, staring out over the ocean. The sky above them is now clear as the constant rain has finally broken. Sever's silver feathers are noticeable now. Aval, the rain is finally done. Sever, I always miss the clear sky when it rains constantly as the cloud passes over. And go to panel 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And from there you just work it out. And sometimes you'll have half a sentence that makes you go, okay, copy paste scene, zoom in or out, and you're done. And other times, there's choreography and or literally Panel 1, the birds attack. And I went a little overboard.
Right.
It's always in good fun and very.
Well, you're also the editor, so
Yes.
so I guess final call is yours, more or less, right?
More or less. But I'm also very critical of myself. So if I'm just not okay with how something is looking, um, sometimes that is half an inked page where I will just throw it out and be like, nope, this is not good enough for the rest of the story. And I completely redo the pencils and the inks because they're not up to quality. Like there is a final say, but I'm also my worst critic. So
Right. Well, yeah. So it's not. I mean, so you more or less like if there's a disagreement between you and the writer, you I mean you hear the writer out, but essentially you get the last word. Would you say?
well, it depends. If their argument is right, I'm completely fine with that. But for example, for this one, my writer had a color scheme in mind for the birds that we're drawing, and each bird had a specific color assigned to them, which corresponded with their personality type, which is fine. But Life on Korra doesn't have any red, yellow, or orange in the entire series.
Okay.
So she had to work around that, and she forgot.
So
So
now, why
yeah.
is that? Is that just a creative decision, or is that like
Oh
a
no,
sign?
that is a very specific decision actually. So let me pull it up. The core that gives light to everything. And that's not what I need. How I needed to open it. Uh, Let me see. Where is it? I can open this one. So the core in La Concora is it only gives off blue light. So there is no red, yellow, or orange visible in this spectrum.
Oh, okay.
Now, let me just pull up the actual full world. 1 second. There we go. So you got the core, and around that are continents that orbit it like planets to a sun. And there's a single cloud giving water to everything, and we're following the life on those continents.
Cool.
Yeah, because it's such an open concept. The writers can have really have a lot of fun imagining what kind of biomes these creatures can live in, um, and what kind of life they would lead, right? So yeah, I'm super proud of this series. It is absolutely incredible, um, and the project that I've been able to make out of it is just wonderful.
How many issues are you up to now?
We are currently up to 5 issues. I am working on Life and Korra Volume 1. So that is pretty much done. And that will be translated to Dutch as well because I'm missing a bit of a Dutch audience with publishing only in English.
Yeah.
I am nearly done with issue 6 because I only have 2 more pages left to pencil and ink. And once that is completely colored in as well, it's going to go back to crowdfunding. But yeah, like we're up to 5 issues.
So you're gonna get it translated or I guess you could probably translate it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I already did translate it completely. So the volume is going to be 180 pages, um, and will be available in English and in Dutch. We crowdfunded that not too long ago. You could get one of 50 of these linen press hardcovers.
Wow, looks awesome.
And yeah, it's a thick book.
It's a thick boy.
It's a thick one, 180 pages. Tons of extra world building material as well. High quality material, like not a cheap book. But yeah, those are numbered and limited to 50. I sold 21 at the crowdfunding campaign. And the rest will be available on our website, laferriesandends.com.
That's exciting.
Well, it's incredible to think that we managed to get this far in only like 5 years.
Now,
And yeah,
now, do you have a finale planned, or do you just
I
want
have
to go on?
I have scripts up to issue 12, and there's more coming. Like my writers keep thinking up other things to put me through, and I kind of lied. We have actually we have 6 issues actually, because Through and the Building Blossoms is a 24-hour challenge that my girlfriend and I did. Here we go. Where we made a comic together in only 24 hours. And this will be printed in Dutch as well. And technically, this is issue 6. This one is completely in black and white, though, because, yeah, we made it in 24 hours, and I'm not a colorist, and I'm not going to put my colorist through inking all this as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, doing a comic book in 24 hours, I would hope that you could. I mean, making it in black and white would make it a lot quicker, right?
Yeah, no. So I did everything pretty much traditionally. Well, no, actually, I did still pencil digitally, like I do for every series I do. But the inking was done very quickly on A3 paper with a pretty big marker, so that you got thick lines, you got quick and dirty, and it just gets the point across, right? And
Right.
yeah, I'm very happy with how it turned out. Like, it's an amazing story, and yeah, just as proud of it as any other of them.
Awesome. So something that I know from watching your Facebook account is that you're very active in doing animation.
That's right.
How did you get started doing that?
Um, I felt like it.
Okay.
That's literally it. I felt like it. So yeah, like the hung animation, which I do on Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Indie Comics Network, um, is literally just me diving into doing my own animations and feeling like it. And knowing that the only way that I'm going to learn this new skill is by doing it. And so I did.
And was that, I mean, was that something that you grew up on? Is that, it, I guess, where did the desire come from, or
The
is it just something you didn't really
desire
know?
came from wanting to learn a new skill. And let's be honest, animation, just like art, is a million skills put into one. But yeah, just learning new skills, but also widening my understanding And what I found with starting to animate is starting to understand lip syncing and journal movement and making things a lot more fluently, is that it made my comic work a lot more fluent as well. I can actually pull it up. Let me grab you a scene.
Yeah, pull up one of your animations. That would be awesome.
Here we go. So there is actually voice acting in this. For people that want to find me on YouTube, you can actually find these scenes. And hold on. So that took a long time to animate. But there's more. We still have more. I finished this scene this morning.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen this one. I mean, you can still play for the people watching.
No, I finished this one this morning. Let's see.
Oh, okay. I think I maybe
So,
saw a similar
it's
one.
going to be very slow. It's going to have a very low animation, like frame count, which you will be able to see here in the bottom. Because there's a lot of tweening, and it does that automatically, and to not overflow. It just needs to load things in, and then slowly it's going to get faster. Just a bit.
Neat.
Let me see if I can playback settings, play all frames. Yeah. So it's going to be very slow. And then afterwards, it's got to do a nice clean run, and it'll actually look like animation. But yeah, every single one of these panels is pretty much drawn by hand, literally. The backgrounds are slightly motion blurred, but also just rough made trees by myself.
So this is a lot of work, is basically what you're saying.
The animation is a lot of work. Would I suggest anyone doing this as a one-man job, animating a full pilot? No.
Is
Would
that
I
the
also?
goal?
Sorry.
Is that the goal? Eventually, you want to have a whole.
Oh
whole
yeah, no. This
episode?
is the entirety of Lava Quarter 5 that I'm going to animate into a pilot. So we got everything voice recorded. I'm just getting it done. So yeah, and it finally had a loop. So this is what it's supposed to look like.
Wow.
And yeah, lip syncing and syncing is hard. Its timing is hard. But the point is to get to understand it and learn new skills, right? That's the whole point behind learning. It's to understand more of the world around you. And it made my expressions a lot better. It made me understand animation as a whole a lot better. It made me see 2s and 3s and 4s that my mind would usually skip over when I started, or when I would look at someone else's animation. Where now I'm like, oh, so that's the 3, that's the 4. This is where they put a 2, and now they animate it in once to make it very fluent. And talking about 2s and 3s and 4s is the amount of frames that you hold a certain image.
Right.
And your mind is going to fill that gap. Like it still does for me. Like I can watch an animated movie and not be bothered at all. But it's made me recognize what people did. And yeah, it really broadened my horizon.
that was gonna be my next question. Like when you watch an animated movie, are you able to turn off that part of your brain, or are you constantly thinking about the technical aspects?
The, not constantly. Like I can enjoy a movie, no problem. I mean, it's not that I'm like I'm gonna be a snob going, well, this tween looked awful, and here's why. No, I've been doing this for a year. I have no right of talking. First of all, um, and honestly, I'm just enjoying this. But yes, it did give me an eye for it, but I can turn it off like any animator can, because the point is that you understand what someone did there, but it doesn't make it any lazier. It doesn't make them make it any harder and any less hard to animate. And you just get more respect for people understanding these cues and this speed to the point where it allows you to respect them even more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's funny. Like, I have a friend who started doing like extra work, like
Hmm.
being an extra in movies, and he said that he said that it kind of ruined movies for him because it's like whenever he watches a movie now, he's just thinking about like, oh, that character looks like he's thinking about like what's for lunch, or
Hmm.
just like little things like that. But I can also see the standpoint that like, oh, it makes you appreciate things better too. Um, I don't know. I found with the comic books, obviously, um, I read a lot of comic books, and I don't know. In some ways, I think it does make the comic books better to be constantly analyzing like, oh, look at this, how they did this word balloon, or how they did the lettering in this panel. Um, Sometimes I do kind of have to like turn off my brain though.
Same. I can be awfully annoyed at lettering, bad lettering. Um, it it annoys me. There's a lot of bad lettering that I see in web comics that I'm like, yeah, you lettering on its own is an art as well. And I'm not saying I'm a great letterer
Hmm.
because I don't think so, but even just knowing where how to snake, you know, like right here, this entire scene snakes like that, goes
Right.
down and up. It's not, you know, and I will see people that will do this and actually break um, the art that needs to be seen
Oh,
and
that's
stuff like
bad.
that. Yeah, I've seen it. So yeah, that 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 is my pet peeve. When it comes to art, there are very few styles that I dislike, um, and there's uh, always inking that I am a huge fan of. Like good inks make me happy. They make me very happy. Same for good coloring. Same for good pencils. But pencils you generally don't see anymore. But
Right.
if you have an inker that puts down such a quality work that the colors don't need any depth, you make me a happy camper. And I'm not that far. I don't think it is my style either, but I can very much appreciate that. And yes, I am going to be looking at some things and go, that was just lazy. On the other hand, I find myself reading just as quickly as the average reader, which means that I'll look at a panel for 3 seconds at most and move on. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
be bothered by it either.
Right, of
Um,
course.
like, yes, there's going to be points where I'm going to be studying someone, right? Like when I'm actively trying to understand the thought process of a creator that I admire. And usually that is where I find where they were lazy, where they actually were smart enough to not care. And that
Right.
just makes me appreciate them even more because we all do that. And if you don't do that, then I'm feeling sorry for your wrist.
Right.
Yeah, like it, reading comics never, like making comics never pulled me out of reading comics.
Yeah.
If anything, it made me further appreciate the amount of work that goes into them, which I know you will agree on. Like the moment you start making one, you start understanding just how much went into this.
Right. Yeah, of course. And yeah, it's and you were I mean you were mentioning some of like the shortcuts that people take. And yeah, I mean I think at some point, like, yeah, you want to do the best job you can on your comic book, but at some point you have to say to yourself, okay, I want this comic book to get out sometime this year. So you do end up taking shortcuts. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there are people who have spent years and years and years doing one comic book. And even if that's the greatest comic book ever, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, okay, why am I doing this? I mean, if the goal is to get your story out there and you want to get, maybe, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you need to kind of find a middle ground between being an absolute perfectionist and
So
getting the stuff done.
what I find for a lot of those kinds of creators that get into their work so deeply that they forget that it's made to go out into the world is that they will either go into a feedback loop where they will just start over because it was too hard, or
Right.
they know they can get better. Because if you're going to if you're going to do a graphic novel of 150 pages, right?
Mhm.
You're going to start at page number one. And
Well, I
page
would
number
never do
one,
that, first of all,
well,
but
yeah, no, like you, but you're going to start at a point, and that point is going to be where you are at that moment in time with your art. Then you get to page 150, say 3, 4, 5 years later, depending on your life and how much effort you put into every page, etc., etc., etc. Nonetheless, that page 150 is going to be completely different compared to page number one. And the reason
right,
is you got better. You always get better.
right,
If I compare page number one of this comic compared to page number 30, which I'm working on right now, I got better. I understood more of my own craft. And the point is, once this is done, I can set it aside and look at it, learn from it, know what I have learned from it, and go, so what do we do better next time?
right.
And that is the point behind art, to
Well,
get
yeah, and
better
I
next time.
I I think a lot of times these guys, where they're like, yeah, my first comic book is going to be this 200-page epic, and I'm not going to release any of it until it's all finished. I think a lot of that is just, you know fear of putting something out into the world. um
Yes.
like, I mean, I have a friend who's a friend of mine like worded it perfectly in my opinion. He said, uh, this friend of mine is a board game designer. He's got a lot of different board game ideas, and so far he hasn't put out any board games. And I was surprised. Like he was very honest about why he hasn't. And in my opinion, he worded it perfectly. He said, as long as this board game is just an idea, it's the greatest board game ever.
Yeah.
But the minute you put it out into the world, it might not be the greatest board game ever.
Here's the
And
thing about that. And here's why I shoot that down every single time I hear it. You don't know. You have no idea about your idea unless you put it down on paper. Your idea is not worth anything to
right,
anyone or even to yourself because you're just building up a debt to an endless pit that
right,
you keep digging into and keep throwing your time and effort at without without using the dirt that you just dug out to actually make a garden out of, right? You're
right,
not making anything out of what you're trying to make. You're not doing anything.
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you do conventions or not, but I
I
know
do.
like these conventions are full of people who think they have the next big idea,
I know.
and they think that their ideas are so freaking valuable, and without the putting the effort into making that idea come to life, your idea isn't worth anything.
No. I generally, on bigger conventions, get at least 3 people up to my table where I'm doing my own art and I'm selling my own work and other people's work. I'm publishing 6 series at once. So, and they will go, I've always wanted to make a comic book. Or, if they tell me they've always wanted to, I'm like, but you didn't. And that's it.
Right.
Like that's the end of the story. Like they don't like me, but that's it how it is. Like the only reason that I'm on this side of the table and you're on that one is because you didn't. Then
Yeah.
you then you have the guys like not guys, just people that will walk up to you and completely ignore what you have on your table because their idea is more valuable because their idea is so much better than whatever you could have possibly made
Right.
that they will just keep ranting and ranting and ranting about it. And I just shoot them down just as much with so where's your script?
Right.
Where's your effort? And usually the answer is, yeah, well, I'm afraid people will steal it. To which my reaction is, there is nothing to be stolen. An idea cannot be copyrighted. A pose cannot be copyrighted. Your mind can't be copywritten. Okay, like literally, like
Right.
you can't stamp that and be like, yeah, until I'm dead, and 70 years after that, you're going to not be able to put anything inside this on anything on paper. Doesn't work like that. Your idea doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is getting that thing out on paper. And until you've done that, you're not worth a damn thing. And I'm sorry to say it like that.
I don't know if you get this as well. I mean, I get the people who come up to my booth and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have this idea for a comic book. I don't know how to
Mhm.
carry it out. So basically, I just want you to do 90% of the work."
Yep.
And they think they're going to sit back and take all of the glory.
Oh yeah.
And and yeah, I just I either kind of politely shoo them away, or I just,
Ask them one thing: how much are you going to pay me?
yeah.
The moment you ask that, they'll walk out. Here's my rates. Why is it so much? Because that's the amount of work it takes. And if you're not willing to put in that amount of time, effort, or like time and or effort or money, you're not going to get anything. Like, ask them how much they will pay you. Because if they don't, then you're not going to work. Because that's what it is. It's work. And if they cannot see it as work, then they're not fun to work with.
Exactly. All right, so Mike, I try to keep these under 50 minutes, and we're a little over 50 minutes at this point.
It happens.
Yeah.
It was a good talk, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's why I let it go long. I was enjoying the conversation. But do you want to mention where people can find you?
You can find me on the Indie Comics Network every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and as well as Hung on Animation every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where I work on the animated pilot for my series Live on Korra. And everything that we publish, everything that we create, and all kinds of updates you will find on my website, fairiesandends.com, or look for linktree/fairiesandends to find all my socials and everywhere in the world where I'm available. And of course, if you look up Mike Jimmy de Bruin, you're probably going to find me because I'm the only one in the world.
Awesome. Yeah, and anybody who wants to get a hold of me, I'm at GW Lankard, LANKARD, on pretty much any of the social media. And you can also go to comicsburg.com. So I think that wraps up another episode. Thank you so much, Mike.
Always a pleasure. Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week.
Good night.